So the movie begins in Brooklyn. And we see a little girl whose name was Rosario. She had come with her parents to her grandma's house where her birthday was being celebrated. Rosario's standard family was also present there, and Rosario, or Rose, was very close to her dad, who tells her that coming to Brooklyn was a hard task for them, but now everything will be fine and Rose will get the life that her parents wanted to give her. Actually, Rose's family were Mexicans and immigrated illegally to the US. Here, we also see Rose's mom and we can see that her health is quite bad. Anyway, Rose's mom tells her to go call her grandma, and while looking for her grandma, Rose goes to her room, but she doesn't see her grandma there, though we, as audience, can see someone moving in the room. Just then, Rose sees a cloth kept in her grandma's wardrobe, with blood on it. Rose starts looking at it carefully, when suddenly her grandma arrives there. Rose tells grandma to come to the hall, and then she notices that her grandma's hands were bleeding. She asks grandma about it, but grandma dodges the question and tells her to go away. Now the whole family together celebrates Rose's birthday, and here the scene ends. Now the scene shifts to present day, and we see Rose, who has grown up. She now lives in Manhattan and is a Wall Street stockbroker, meaning she has become quite successful. This becomes even clearer when we see Rose's living conditions, which have significantly improved from childhood. Now, Rose is getting calls from her grandma since morning, but she doesn't pick them up. When she reaches office, the security guard below, who was a Latin American, asks Rose for help in getting a loan, but Rose politely refuses him, saying that her company doesn't let her take personal clients and he doesn't meet the company's criteria. He won't get the main shot loan. After that, Rose goes to office and we can see that the weather outside was getting worse, and snow was falling outside, and warnings for a storm were being given on TV. Now in the evening, when Rose is leaving office, her driver calls her and tells her that the car is stuck in traffic and it's not possible to get out from there right now. So Rose decides to take the metro. Just then she gets another call from her grandma. This time she picks it up, and from the other end, her grandma's building janitor tells her that her grandma is no longer in this world. Rose gets very disturbed hearing this, and the janitor tells her to come take the body. Rose calls her dad and tells him everything. Rose's dad lived quite far from Brooklyn, so he says it'll take him a few hours to come, and tells her to wait there, because he doesn't want Rose to be alone with the body. But Rose decides to go alone to the apartment and says she'll wait there. Here we find out that Rose's parents had got divorced and her mom had died years ago. We already knew that Rose's mom used to be sick, which is why she passed away. Now it's revealed that during the divorce, Rose had taken her dad's side because she didn't want to see her mom dying. After her mom passed away, Rose never went to meet her grandma because she couldn't process her grief. Rose felt very guilty about this, but her dad consoled her and said that everyone wanted Rose's success, so no one was angry with her. Now at the station, Rose sees her mom, which scares her a lot because her mom is not even in this world, meaning it could be a vision. Anyway, Rose takes the metro and reaches her grandma's house. We see the weather is getting very bad, and the streets were becoming deserted. Anyway, Rose reaches her grandma's building and goes into her apartment with the janitor. The janitor tells her that he has covered the dead body with a sheet, out of respect. The apartment's condition was very bad. Just then the janitor notices the burning candles and immediately puts them out, saying that he had just put them out a little while ago. The janitor also tells Rose that he has informed the ambulance, and after that the janitor leaves. Now Rose looks at her childhood photos in the apartment. In the kitchen, she sees that there were a lot of dirty dishes in the sink, and there were even worms in them. She somehow throws them in the dustbin, and finally sits near her grandma's body. Now she sees that there were numerous cuts on her grandma's body. Just then the apartment starts shaking, as if an earthquake has come. A few seconds later, everything becomes normal again. But then Rose sees that blood and some worms were coming out of her grandma's nose. She feels very disgusted seeing this, but still tries to clean it with paper towel. As she throws the tissue, the worm pierces her palm and starts crawling inside her skin. Yes, crawling through her arm. It goes to her neck and then into her ear, from where Rose pulls it out. Because of all this, Rose gets very scared and doesn't feel good at all. She goes into her grandma's room, where she still sees that cloth with blood in the closet. Behind the clothes in the closet, she sees an animal skull and a door, which was locked. Rose sees that it's the neighbor who came, asking for his air fryer. Rose doesn't believe what he says, so she tries to dodge him. Rose doesn't let him come inside, but while leaving he tells her that she should put a band-aid on her hands. Rose closes the door and sees that there's a weird sign on her hand. She notices that the sign was exactly the same as the one on her grandma's body. Just then she sees a key tied to her grandma's foot and understands that this must be the key to the compartment inside the closet. Rose opens that door and sees a secret room inside. Inside the room were ritual objects, animal skulls, voodoo-like dolls pierced with lots of needles, and even a big cauldron. Then she sees her birthday photo, her baby teeth, and her used tampons. Seeing this, she feels very disgusted and starts puking. Then from the cauldron, she hears some scary sounds which frightens her a lot, and she runs away from there. All the apartment lights start fluctuating, and seeing all this, Rose leaves from there. Now the weather was getting worse, and the janitor tells her not to go outside, but Rose still leaves. Rose doesn't get a taxi, so she goes to take the subway, but there a demonic entity attacks her. She keeps seeing her mom in that demon and somehow saves herself and returns to her grandma's building. We see that she has gotten quite a few injuries. She stops near the staircase and searches the internet for things like voodoo, witchcraft, etc., to understand what was happening to her. Then she sees a page about Palo Mayombe. Actually, Palo Mayombe is a kind of religion, or you can say, dark practice in which there is a cauldron. Also called Nana, which is allowed to house spirits and one deals with them. Practitioners of Palo Mayombe are called Paleros, and this religion also demands blood sacrifice. Rosario finds out that the sign on her hand was a sign of death. Seeing all this, Rose gets very scared and immediately calls her dad and tells him everything. She says that her grandma had been doing black magic on her since childhood, and before dying, she put a debt on Rose. Rose's dad clarifies that her grandma was a witch doctor who used to help people and would never do anything to hurt Rose. But Rose feels that her grandma is taking revenge on her because Rose didn't choose her or her mom, and she never used to visit her grandma anymore. Rosario's dad kept warning her, "Don't mess with this stuff. Just go back home." But does Rosario listen? Nope. She goes straight back to the apartment. Heads right into that same creepy secret room. She starts dragging that cauldron out of there, but just then, a demonic entity appears and attacks Rosario out of nowhere. She somehow escapes it, barely, and places the cauldron next to her grandma's dead body. Then, after some searching, Rosario finds this ancient book. And inside, it's all written. Everything about this ritual. She reads about how to break the curse, and it says to do that, you need to pour the blood of 2 people into the cauldron, 1 the person who's cursed, and 2 the Palero, the one who cast the curse. So Rosario takes a knife and cuts her grandma's hand, but nothing. Not a drop of blood comes out. And boom, the demonic entity attacks again. Rosario somehow manages to pour her own blood and her grandma's into the cauldron, and the moment she does that, her grandma's dead body starts to move. Rosario freaks out and hides under the bed. But the entity comes at her again. This time, it keeps appearing as her mom, telling Rosario how she did everything for her. And still, Rosario left her. Why? Rosario says, for a better future. But the entity, disguised as her mom, tells her that now Rosario will have to watch her own pain and suffering. Then it literally spits some disgusting liquid right on Rosario's face. Rosario crawls out from under the bed, panicking, and starts trying to clean herself up. Just then, Joe shows up at the door again asking for his air fryer. Rosario snaps at him, yelling. See, Rosario believed that since her grandma was Mexican, there's no way she'd ever use an air fryer, but Joe says, you didn't know your grandma. You never even visited her. Turns out, Joe and Rosario's grandma were actually super close. He knew her way more than Rosario ever did. He tells Rosario that her grandma used to pray for her, day and night, even prayed for her success. That hits Rosario hard. She opens the door, asks Joe, how do you even know that? He says, I could hear her voice from the walls. And then Joe walks away. That's when Rosario finally realizes her grandma never cursed her. She was never trying to harm her. She had actually been praying for her all along. So now Rosario goes back inside the apartment, heads to the secret room again, and walks up to the voodoo doll. There, through a note, she finds out something big. Her grandma had once made a deal with a demon named Cobiand. What kind of deal? A deal for Rosario's success. According to the terms, Rosario would get success, lots of it, but once that deal was fulfilled, Cobiand would return as a vengeful spirit to collect his reward. He'd haunt Rosario all night, fill her with terror, and before sunrise, he'd kill her, and the only way to nullify the deal, the Polero, the person who made the deal, would have to offer their own body to Cobiand. That means they'd have to pour their own blood into the cauldron. After reading all this, Rosario gets completely overwhelmed. She's confused. She doesn't know what to do, but then she makes a plan. She decides she's going to trap Cobiand inside her grandma's body. She'll pour her blood into the cauldron so that Cobiand enters the body, but since it's already dead, he won't be able to do anything. So now, Rosario wraps herself in her grandma's prayer shawl, the same one her grandma used during rituals. She begins the ritual. But just then, an ambulance shows up. Yep, that same ambulance that was called by janitor in the beginning of the movie, but Rosario's already mid-ritual, and she can't let them take the body. So she hides it again back in the secret room. Right then, Cobiand appears again, this time in the form of her mom, and attacks Rosario once more. She barely escapes. But by the time she comes out of the room, the janitor and the ambulance guys are already gone. So Rosario gets back to work. She brings her grandma's body out again and starts the ritual one more time, and just then, out of nowhere, a huge hand bursts out of her grandma's mouth and shoves Rosario across the room. She hits her head hard and blacks out. Now when Rosario wakes up, the whole apartment is filled with light. She sees her mom, looking completely normal. Rosario's terrified, but her mom tells her, "It's really me." She says she's proud of Rosario, proud of her success. She says there's no disappointment, no anger, she's just happy Rosario made it. Rosario breaks down. She says sorry. She confesses that after finding success, she ignored her family, especially her mom and grandma. They both share this emotional moment, but then the twist hits. It wasn't her mom. It was Cobiand all along, playing with Rosario's emotions, making her vulnerable, but Rosario fights back. She breaks free from his grip and grabs that ancient book. She starts chanting, reading the incantations, and as she does, her grandma's dead body starts pulling Cobiand into itself. And boom, Cobiand gets trapped inside her grandma's body. For good. Next scene, it's morning. Rosario's dad arrives. The apartment looks normal again. The ambulance guys take her grandma's body away. Rosario, now finally at peace, goes through old birthday photos, honoring her grandma, but then she spots something. In one photo of her parents, her dad's hand was covered in blood. Rosario's entire expression changes. She starts frantically searching for her dad, finds him in the secret room, standing near the cauldron, and here comes the biggest twist. Her dad tells her that on the day of Rosario's birthday, he was extremely worried about her future. He knew about his mother-in-law's Palo Mayom practices, and he knew about the secret room. So, in a moment of weakness, he took her ritual book and performed the deal himself. Yep, he was the one who made the deal with Cobiand. Just then, Rosario's grandma caught him, and she managed to stop it. To keep Cobiand in control, she sacrificed her own blood so that the demon wouldn't go after Rosario but after her death. There was no one left to stop Cobiand anymore. That's why he came for Rosario. Turns out, Rosario's grandma never cursed her. She wasn't the Polero. Her dad was. She was trying to save Rosario all along, even if it meant slowly sacrificing herself. Now, Rosario's dad breaks down. He apologizes. Says Rosario doesn't need to worry anymore, because from now on, just like her grandma, he will keep pouring his blood into the cauldron, so Cobian stays trapped. Rosario stands there stunned, and then something clicks. She turns to her dad and asks, "Wait, did you already put your blood into the cauldron?" And then his face starts to change because Cobian had already possessed him. So, if you remember, the book clearly said that to nullify the deal, the Polero, the one who made the pact, must offer their body to Cobian by pouring their own blood into the cauldron, and in this case, the Polero wasn't Rosario's grandma. It was her dad. So the moment her dad's blood went into the cauldron, Cobian possessed his body. And after that, he started hunting Rosario. Rosario runs terrified, and a full-blown physical fight breaks out between her and her possessed father. Just then, Joe bursts in. He grabs his air fryer from the kitchen and smashes it straight onto Cobian. That move ends Joe's life. Cobian kills him right there, but in the chaos, Rosario somehow survives. She gathers herself, and ultimately, she kills her dad, who by now was completely under Cobian's control. After this intense scene, the story shifts to a few months later, and now we see Rosario changed. The same security guard Rosario refused to help with the loan in the beginning, now she's helping him out. She's no longer ashamed of her roots. She proudly keeps a photo of her entire family on her office desk, lights a candle in front of it to honor them. But suddenly, she starts coughing, and then, from inside her mouth, a demonic hand bursts out. The screen cuts to black. The end. This ending leaves us with some huge questions. 1. How is Cobian still inside Rosario? Well, here's the thing. These demonic entities, their deals are always rigged. No matter what you try, they make sure they win in the end. Rosario's grandma was able to hold Cobian back for years because she was a powerful Polera, but once she died, Cobian grew stronger and started coming for Rosario's body and soul. 2. What is Palo Mayombe really? Palo Mayombe is a real-life Afro-Caribbean religious practice, often linked to black magic, but it's much more complex. It's not purely evil. It involves both good and bad forces, and whether it's used for healing or harm, that depends on the Polero. Rosario's grandma used it for good, to heal and protect. But her father used it for selfish reasons, and that's what got Cobian involved in the place. 3. What really caused the grandma's death? We're told Rosario's mom died from an illness, but her grandma's cause of death? It's vague. Most likely, she died from years of self-sacrifice, bloodletting to keep Cobian trapped. Over time, that must have weakened her so much that her body just gave out. That's why there were multiple cuts on her body, a sign of the long ritualistic battle she fought, alone. 4. Why did Cobian always appear as Rosario's mom? Because Rosario's deepest guilt was tied to her mother's death. She believed she had abandoned her mom when she needed her most. Cobian used that emotional vulnerability as a weapon, appearing in the form of her mom to manipulate and control Rosario psychologically. 5. What was the blood on Rosario's dad's hand in the birthday photo? That was a brilliant foreshadowing. That photo showed the very first attempt Rosario's dad made to perform the ritual and make a deal with Cobian. But her grandma saw him, intervened mid-ritual, and took control of the demon herself. From that day on, she kept Cobian locked down for years. Rosario's dad may have run away, but her grandma stood firm. 6. What was up with Joe? At first, Joe seemed weird. We suspected maybe he was linked to Cobian, but in the end, when Cobian kills him, we realize Joe was just a regular neighbor. A genuine guy who really cared about Rosario's grandma, and yes, he just wanted his air fryer back. This film is about guilt, redemption, and sacrifice. Rosario's guilt over abandoning her family drives her to the edge, but by the end, she finds her way back. She embraces her heritage, reconnects with her family's story, and earns a kind of emotional redemption, and the film shows us how family, even when suffering, will do anything, bleed, fight, and die, just to see their children succeed. And that ending scene, Cobian's hand coming out of Rosario's mouth, it could mean two things. 1. Cobiand is a trickster demon, he lied, and he's still inside Rosario. 2. Or Rosario is so deeply traumatized that she's now hallucinating, haunted forever by what she experienced. Either way, it leaves us with a good thrilling chill. So that was the full story of Rosario or Rosario. Thank you.